Hello, welcome to Ray-ality TV. I'm Raymond Bakari. Today I'm joined by Joy Fox, who is one of several Democrats running in 2022 for Rhode Island's 2nd Congressional District to succeed Congressman Jim Langevin, who is retiring this year. Ms. Fox, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great, and it's good to have you on. My first question here, why do you want to be the next congressperson?
Thank you. And before I dive into that question, I just want to say congratulations on your newly appointed position, editor-in-chief at the Rhode Island College Anchor. You have a tremendous responsibility, and I wish you all the best as you move into the new school year. Why I'm running? I'm running because I believe I can make a difference for the people of Rhode Island's 2nd Congressional District. I believe I have a unique set of experiences and perspective, and I have a deep understanding of what the realities that are facing Rhode Islanders, specifically in the 2nd District, and not only their challenges, but I also think there's a tremendous opportunity to highlight successes and where we are exceeding and striving. I grew up in the district. I grew up in Cranston. My parents still live in the house that I grew up in. I'm the oldest of 5 kids and a proud aunt to 2 nephews and a niece. And I live in Warwick now. And I think coming from the district is important. I know my friends, my family, neighbors, and colleagues, again, to that deep understanding of what folks are facing. I also have spent my career listening. As you know, I started at the Rhode Island College Anchor myself, and then moved on to the Cranston Herald and the Warwick Beacon. And that was a tremendous opportunity to dive deeper into the community and to, again, understand the challenges and celebrate the successes that they had. And from there, I moved on into government service. I actually worked for Congressman Jim Langevin for 5.5, 6 years or so. And my time with him was marked by the passage of the Affordable Care Act. That was my first experience working on deep and complex pieces of legislation and being in the room where it happens, and then bringing them back here to the community and having conversations with constituents. After that, I served with Governor Gina Raimondo. I actually worked for her when she was treasurer, and then moved with her into the governor's office and ran her transition into the governor's office. Since leaving service, I've run a small business. So it being National Small Business Week as well, I bring that set of experiences to the table as well. I run a small strategic communications firm. So to answer your question, Ray, I'm doing this because I think I have the right experience and qualifications to hit the ground running on day one for all Rhode Islanders, specifically the Rhode Islanders of the 2nd District.
Looking at your campaign platform, you have quite an extensive platform focusing on a number of issues. One of them is housing. This is a key issue not only locally here in Rhode Island, but also throughout the country. You sometimes hear ideas like changing the zoning laws or just flat out building more housing. And what ways would you be able to address the housing crisis in Congress?
Thank you. I think it is a full court press. I don't think that there's one solution. I think we have to attack it from all angles. I was at an event last night and was asked about it. And it comes up frequently when I'm with people and out on the campaign trail. And the biggest thing on people's minds is supply and stock. You know, we've got Rhode Islanders who need homes now, either to rent or to buy, and we just don't have the available capacity. So to address that, there are things like funding the housing trust fund and making sure that that is adequately funded to be able to rehab and build new spaces. And it's funny, just today too, I was having a conversation with a gentleman who is in the building sector. And he said, you know, even if we had the funding and the go-ahead to build 5,000 new units, we don't have the workforce for it. So that is a secondary challenge that we also have to take very seriously. So if we're funding ways to build more stock and rehabilitate buildings, we also need to be mindful of, do we have the right workforce, the skill development there, the skilled workforce to be able to build and rehab those housing units. So there's not a one size fits all, and we've got to attack it from all angles. And that's what I would be advocating for if successful.
Speaking of other frequently heard issues you'd be advocating for, you also have on your platform things like lowering prescription drug costs, investing in the blue economy, universal pre-K, strengthening the Affordable Care Act, et cetera. A lot of those ideas were also part of President Biden's Build Back Better plan. So hypothetically speaking, if you're elected and that was reintroduced in 2023, would you vote in favor of the Build Back Better plan?
I'd need to see what was exactly introduced. If it contains those issues, I'd be very much inclined to, but I want to make sure that they're in the best way for Rhode Islanders and shaped in that way. And I would look forward to bringing those ideas and that proposed legislation back here and making sure that all the constituencies affected by that could weigh in on it. But I think the list that you just went through, those are all things that we need to do to be able to move our country forward.
You also support HR1 and HR4. These bills would overhaul how our elections would be operated. Things like universal mail-in voting, having independent commissions to handle redistricting, et cetera. The list goes on. Can you explain for those watching why you support those bills?
Voting is the foundation of our democracy. That's as simple as that. HR4 and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act is critical. It's critical to passing and making our voting systems as accessible as possible to all Americans. It's funny, I was on the phone the other day with someone, and he's a business guy, and I was expecting to have more of an economic conversation, and that was top of mind on his list, was passing the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And I couldn't agree more with him, and hope I have the opportunity to vote on it.
There are a lot of bipartisan ideas in those bills too, and it also goes further when there was the Freedom to Vote Act in the Senate too, I believe, that talked about things like making Election Day a national holiday, so people could actually go vote and not have to worry about working. One other idea actually that I talk about frequently on the show that has bipartisan support is term limits for members of Congress. For those watching, members of Congress can continuously get reelected until they either retire, get voted out, or just don't have the ability to run anymore. There's current examples: Chuck Grassley from Iowa, he's a senator, he's in his late 80s. This Dianne Feinstein of California, she's in her 80s, and it has bipartisan support in recent polling. Where do you stand on term limits for members of Congress?
I think a couple of things here. One is, as a member of the House, you run every 2 years. So the voters are the ultimate deciders when it comes to term limits, I think. So we have to keep that in mind. But I think it's worth looking at. There is something to be said for having experienced legislators there who can pass the baton. But yeah, I think it's worth looking at.
Sometimes politicians will self-term limit. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Senator of Pennsylvania, Pat Toomey. He actually comes from Rhode Island and went to LaSalle. He pledged to only do 3 terms in the House. He served 3 terms, 2 in the Senate. He's finishing up his 2nd term, and he's not running for re-election because he wanted to self-impose those term limits. Would you consider an idea like that if you're elected?
I'd like to get elected first, Ray. We'll get there.
And another issue that I've been asking every CD2 candidate is about the national debt. This is a topic that isn't talked about as much. It's currently at 30 trillion. My generation and future generations are going to have to pay for that. It even could be relevant in the conversation when we talk about things like inflation, since when you have no money and you print more, like what the US is doing, then inflation happens and the money becomes valueless. How would you help tackle the issue of national debt and even inflation for that matter if elected?
I think a couple of things. One, and you can check me on this too, I think the president today announced that for the first time in a while, the national debt is going to shrink this year. So that's a positive sign. And the stronger our economy is, the better for the financial health of our nation. So that's where my focus will be, is making our economy stronger and work for everyone.
Is there any specific measures in mind that you would support? I know, for example, there was, this is one that Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky has continuously tried to bring up, called the penny plan, where you would take, well, now it's the 3 penny plan because of all the COVID spending, where you take 3 pennies out of every single dollar that's spent, put it in a separate account. I believe it was in 5 years, you have a balanced budget, and then 10 years, it's a surplus of a trillion.
Not familiar with that plan exactly. One, I think, meaningful thing to do is to raise taxes on billionaires and the wealthiest among us. We think that's a way to generate revenue.
These next few are shorter form, 1 to 2 word answer lightning round questions.
I feel like we're already in the lightning round, Ray. You are moving us, man.
These next few are part of the lightning round. I've been asking these ones to every CD2 candidate to pick their brain, because a lot of these could be things that you may have to focus on if you're elected. They've been sort of kind of been addressed in this congressional session. Are you for or against the statehood for DC and Puerto Rico?
I would support what the voters there and the residents there would want to do.
So would that be a yes, because Puerto Rico did pass that referendum on their end, and then there is a lot of calls from mainly members of your party?
I think yes, I think it's important to follow the lead of the residents of those places. So yes.
Would you vote in favor of or against legislation that would add more Supreme Court justices?
I think this past week we've seen the courts make some pretty extreme decision or draft decisions to overturn 50 years worth of precedent with the right to choose. I think it's something that we need to look at. And, you know, the reality is, would it get done? I don't know, but I think it's something that we have to take very seriously, especially when fundamental rights are under threat.
If elected and a bill to ban members of Congress from trading stocks doesn't pass by the time you're sworn in, can you assure that you won't trade stocks or use any loopholes?
Correct. Yes, I can say that. Yes.
One of the first votes you would have to do if elected is vote for, and this depends on the House composition, either a House Speaker or even the House Minority Leader, depending how the election result goes in November. Is there anybody in mind that you would vote for either Speaker or House Minority Leader?
Yeah, no, there's no one in mind at the moment. Again, I'm focused on winning this race and look forward to making that decision and talking to you again in January about it.
What about Speaker Pelosi? If she decides to want to run for leadership, would you consider voting for her?
Yes, she's done a tremendous job.
Shifting to the non-political topics, you had actually talked about this at the beginning of your first answer. You attended RIC, and also not only attended RIC, but you also worked for the Anchor, which I'm a little biased, but I think that's awesome. Because currently being at the Anchor, I gotta support the paper. You were copy editor and a reporter too, if I recall correctly. What was your time? What was your time?
I'm sorry.
What was your time like as a student at the Anchor?
It was a tremendous experience. There's nothing, I don't have to tell you this, there's nothing cooler than the Anchor. No, it's RIC afforded me a tremendous opportunity, mostly because of its affordability. I, like you, worked through college. I commuted and thankfully for working, cobbling together some scholarships and it being affordable, I was able to graduate without any debt. And I know I am an outlier there, and I have to hand it to Rhode Island College for really why I'm sitting here today with you. And I look forward to quizzing you when you declare for Congress someday, Ray. And it was a tremendous experience. You're right. I worked for the Anchor just last night at an event. I ran into a fellow history major. I was a history major at Rhode Island College, and we were talking about Stanley Lemons and his Rhode Island history class in the history department. And it's just everywhere you go in the state, you run into someone who has some connection to Rhode Island College, and that's a tremendous, tremendous community. I even put on, I hope this looks maroon to you. I tried to wear my RIC colors today for this occasion, but no, very lucky to have the experience, and I wish you all the best on carrying on the legacy at the Anchor.
Thank you, and that's awesome that you had such a great time at the Anchor. If you don't mind me asking, how did you find out about it? Because you said you were a history major. Were you always interested in working for a school paper?
Yes, actually, I got my start in high school with an internship with John Howell at the Warwick Beacon and the Cranston Herald, and John gave me some really great advice. He said, don't major in journalism, major in something that you're interested in and learn the topic and bring that to your writing, because in college, it's all writing. You will learn to write no matter what, and find a school that has a strong student newspaper and work there. So that's the path that I took. I became a history major. I love history, and then found my way to the Anchor. Are you still on the third floor in the student union? Is that?
Actually, so now we're at the Ducey Media Center. It's actually right next to this. So it's you know where Donovan and the student union are?
I do, yeah.
So there's a building that's connected to the backside of Donovan near the parking lot, like as you drive in, and that's where we're located now. It's the first office on your right when you walk in.
Wow, moving up.
Yeah, and
That's awesome.
it's awesome to have our own building because now we
Yeah.
have our own office. We're right next to Anchor TV and WXIN. I'm not sure what it was. I think it used to be WRIC before my time at Rick. Was there any challenges you had faced during your time at Rick? Because sometimes time management. There's a lot of the things that make it tough to be a college student and get involved on campus.
Well, the biggest problem was parking. I think that is a timeless Rhode Island College problem, especially for commuters. It again, because of the student population and knowing that a lot of us were commuters and working full time, the faculty and the staff were always supportive and understanding of everything, all the challenges and just life that students at Rhode Island College were working to balance. So, there's always stresses around, can I get that paper in time and I still have to work, that sort of thing. But it also just taught you the value of hard work. And that is exactly what I'm bringing to this campaign. It's just hard work and getting out there and listening to people and doing my best here.
Question is one that I ask everyone on the show to keep tradition. It's also a non-political topic like the Rick questions. It's, in your opinion, what do you think Rhode Island is best known for?
I think it's beaches. I love to go to the beach. It's funny, whenever I talk to friends in other places, they want to know where I'm going in the summer. And I say, nowhere. I'm driving down the road and I'm going to East Matunic State Beach. So that's got to be my answer.
Ms. Fox, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure of mine to have you on.
Yeah, right back at you. Thank you for this opportunity. And thank you for all you're doing to get the word out about all of these races. It's tremendous. Thank you.
Thanks, that means a lot. And thank you for watching this episode of Ray-ality TV. If you want to see future episodes as soon as they're posted on this channel, please click both the subscribe button down below and the post notification bell icon to the right of it. I'm Raymond Bakari. I'll see you on the next episode.